Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to Daily News Analysis of Shankar Academy. Today's date is 23rd of February 2024. Displayed here are the articles that we are going to discuss today. So without much delay, let us get into the first news article discussion. Look at this article. The article is discussing a recent modification to surrogacy rules in India that allows for the use of donor eggs or sperm if a medical condition of an intending couple necessitates it. Specifically, if either the husband or wife suffers from a medical condition that requires the use of donor gametes, a surrogacy using donor gametes is now permitted. This amendment represents a change from the previous rule, which required both the egg and sperm to come from the intending couple. This is the crux of this news article. In this context, let us quickly go through surrogacy from the prelims perspective. Firstly, what is surrogacy? See, surrogacy refers to the practice of one woman bearing and giving birth to a child for an intending couple with an intention of handing over such child to the intending couple. Or in simple terms, surrogacy refers to a contract in which a woman carries a pregnancy for another couple. Here you must understand that surrogacy comes as an alternative when the infertile woman or couple is not able to reproduce. There are two types of surrogacies. The first one is gestational surrogacy. In this type, an embryo is created through in vitro fertilization, IVF. Here, IVF is nothing but the process in which mature eggs are collected from the ovaries and fertilized by the sperm in the lab. Here, you might have a doubt, like from whose ovaries the eggs are collected or whose sperms are used. Remember, here the eggs of the surrogate mother is not used in any case. The eggs and sperm of the intended parents or donors is used for creating this embryo. This embryo, which is fertilized by in vitro fertilization, is implanted into the uterus of the surrogate mother, who carries and delivers the baby. So here, the child is not biologically related to the surrogate mother, and the surrogate mother is often referred to as gestational carrier. See, in most cases, at least one intended parent is genetically related to the child, and the surrogate is not in any case. This makes gestational surrogacy less legally complicated than other forms of surrogacy. The second one is traditional surrogacy. In this traditional surrogacy, the surrogate mother is impregnated with the sperms of the intended father artificially, thus making her both genetic and gestational mother. Here, the surrogate mother shares a genetic link to the child. So this is about the difference between gestational and traditional surrogacy. Also note that surrogacy arrangement may be commercial or altruistic depending upon whether the surrogate receives financial reward for her pregnancy. Here, the commercial surrogacy means commercialization of surrogacy services or procedures or its component services or component procedures. Or in simple terms, it can be any surrogacy arrangement in which the surrogate mother is compensated for her services beyond reimbursement of medical expenses. The alternative to commercial surrogacy is altruistic surrogacy, in which a woman volunteers to carry a pregnancy for the intended parents without receiving any monetary compensation in return. Most altruistic surrogacies are between family members or close friends. Note that in India, gestational surrogacy is the only type of surrogacy permitted, and the commercial surrogacy is banned in India. So in India, if I wish to have a child through surrogacy, I can legally commission surrogacy only through altruistic surrogacy, that too only through gestational surrogacy. But the rules are changing justice based on case to case. For example, the Supreme Court had previously allowed a woman with Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser MRKH syndrome, a condition causing infertility, to undergo surrogacy with a donor egg. Similarly, there is a change in rules as we saw in the introduction part. So from now on, in case when the district medical board certifies that either husband or wife constituting the intending couple suffers from the medical condition that necessitates the use of donor gamete, then surrogacy using donor gamete is allowed. That's all about this discussion. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Take a look at this column page editorial article from The Hindu. This article talks about the evolving landscape of the space sector and the importance of clear regulatory environments to support the growth of private sector involvement. So in this news article discussion, let us understand some of the important points given in the article using our mains answer rating discussion. Let me read out the question for you. Discuss the implications of allowing the private sector participation in the Indian space industry. This question can be asked in the mains GS paper 3 under the syllabus Awareness in the fields of IT, space, computers, robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology and issues relating to the intellectual property rights. See, the only keyword in the question is discuss. So you're expected to cover different viewpoints, arguments, or perspectives related to the given subject. In the introduction part, you can briefly explain about the space sector, and you can split the main body of the answer into two parts. First, you can talk about the implications of allowing private sector participation in the Indian space industry. Secondly, you can talk about the negative impacts, if any. Finally, in the conclusion part, you can give a balanced judgment regarding the matter. This is how we are going to address this particular question. Moving on to the introduction part, here you can write that Indian space industry makes up 2% of world's space economy. Moving on to the introduction part, here you can write that India's space industry makes up 2% of the world's space economy, but with the help from ISRO and diligent work by the private sector, it could rise up to 8%. Space exploration in India has also shifted from being solely the domain of national agencies to involving private sector players. The steps required to open India's space sector to private companies through state-led reforms started in 2020. This includes releasing geopolitical guidelines, enacting the Indian Space Policy, establishing the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center in Space, and passing legislations like the Telecommunications Acts of 2023 and provide satellite broadband services. Currently, the government has decided to allow 100% of FDI in certain aspects of the space sector and up to 74% and 49% in other areas. This liberalized entry routes will attract foreign investments and stimulate growth in the space economy. The following are the implications of allowing the private sector participation in the Indian space industry. This way, you can link the intro part with the main body of the answer. Moving on. In the first part of the answer, you have to write about the implications of allowing the private sector participation in the Indian space industry. Here you can write the answer in 3 subheadings. Firstly, financial implications, then socio-economic implications, then geopolitical implications. In the financial implications, you can write that the new investments in the space sector can enhance India's space economy by supporting startups. It can boost local manufacturing and increasing investors' confidence. For example, Department of Space is currently supporting Agnikul Cosmos with the supply of Flight Termination System (FTS) to develop Agnikul Cosmos' own launch vehicle named Agni-Ban. Know that Agnikul Cosmos is a space technology startup based in Chennai. If Agni-Ban is ready to launch, then it will become the first ever private launch vehicle in India. Secondly, new investments allow to create funds for skill development, and it paves way for innovation curation and venture development. This in turn increases job opportunities and provide level playing field for all the stakeholders. For example, Space Tech Innovation Network (SPIN) is India's first dedicated platform for innovation, curation and venture development for the burgeoning space entrepreneurial ecosystem. So far, it has supported numerous startups and small medium enterprises (SMEs) operating in the space industry. Moving on to the socio-economic implications. See, private investments in space sector can drive advancements in other sectors, leading to technological spillovers and improvements in areas such as telecommunications, navigation, remote sensing, and material science. These advancements can enhance productivity, efficiency, and competitiveness in the broader economy. Secondly, by providing valuable data and insights, space assets contribute to informed decision making and sustainable development. This includes climate change monitoring, disaster management, agriculture, healthcare, and education. Moving on to the geopolitical implications. Promoting the private sector will enable India's space program to remain cost competitive within the global space market. This not only boosts India's economy but also strengthens its diplomatic relations with other countries, particularly those seeking affordable access to space technology and services. Additionally, India's competitive pricing may disrupt the dominance of traditional space powers, potentially reshaping the geopolitical landscape of space exploration and utilization. For example, South Asia satellite GSAT-9 was launched by ISRO for the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC) region. SAARC countries would receive communication, telemedicine, meteorological forecasting, and broadcasting benefits from this satellite. Secondly, India sees space as crucial for its defense, especially with China's growing military and space capabilities. Using satellites for intelligence and surveillance helps monitor disrupted areas in Himalayas and supports naval operations in the Indian Ocean. As India's geopolitical significance grows, its space capabilities will play a big role in shaping global politics. You can write these points in the first part of the answer. Moving on to the second part of the answer, here you can write 2 to 3 challenges or shortcomings of allowing the private investments in space sector. Firstly, you can write about the data risk. Though space may give an opportunity to entrepreneurs, the raw data of ISRO in the hands of public is sensitive and consists of danger of misuse or improper utilization of data. Secondly, regulation of private sector participation is not easy. The time taken for regulatory clearances and unstable political institutions can cause delays and hurdle in the decision making of investors. Thirdly, it can pave way for unfair commercial practices like lobbying and unfair means to get space projects or launch of satellites for their own profit. It may also lead to leakage of sensitive information by private players to other countries and companies to make profit. You can write these points in the second part of the answer. Finally, in the conclusion part, you can write that although allowing private sector in the space industry is risky, with the adequate regulatory frameworks, India can reap lots of benefits. So the need of an hour is to maintain clear regulatory frameworks, reduce bureaucracy, increase public support and facilitate Indian companies' access to foreign markets. This will facilitate growing India's share of global space economy to 10% within a decade. So that's all for this answer writing. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Look at this opinion article from Hindu. It talks about a pertinent question which is a matter of debate for a long period of time. The question is, should India have regional benches of the Supreme Court? Now let us trace the answer for this question in our discussion. Firstly, why this was discussed again now? It is because the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Law and Justice informed the Lok Sabha that the Law Ministry has accepted its recommendation to establish regional benches of the Supreme Court across India. See, even though it was an idea mooted long ago, the Apex Court has been consistently rejecting the idea and the matter is in the court. Before seeing pros and cons of such idea, let us see the stand of Constitution in it. See, the Constitution declares Delhi as the seat of the Supreme Court, but it also authorizes the Chief Justice of India to appoint other places as seat of the Supreme Court. Thus, it neither mandated nor opposed it. Having these basics, now let us see the arguments supporting the establishment of benches. Firstly, with the increase in education and standard of living, people are less willing to accept arbitrary or unjust actions of the state and its agencies. This makes them to approach the courts of law and increasing pendency. Moreover, it becomes practically impossible for people living in distant states to approach Delhi to agitate their causes. The common argument is that the presence of the litigant is not required in appellate cases, so they need not to be physically present. But the reality is that every litigant wants to meet the lawyer and inspect the court proceedings involving his cases. Secondly, it will surely reduce the pendency of the cases. See, a little more than 80,000 cases are currently pending in court of law, out of which 60,000 cases are civil. So the establishment of regional benches will increase the number of judges as well as the lawyers and will eventually reduce the pendency in our judicial system. Thirdly, with respect to democratization of the bar, see, the regional benches could lead to greater opportunities and democratization of the bar. This may create more opportunities to excel in the legal career. Having said the positives, the various limitations as discussed in the opinion are, first and foremost, the article says that mere forming a regional bench won't solve the issue of pendency in India. The rationale given in the article is that majority of the case filed in Supreme Court is rising from the High Courts, which is closer to Delhi. So mere constituting regional benches won't solve this problem. Moreover, there is also a possibility of numerous frivolous or petty petitions being filed with easier access to justice. Thus, it may solve few problems while creating many. Secondly, with the formation of regional benches, many divergent views will be created. Know that sometimes they may be antagonistic to each other, thus reducing the authority of the court. Having discussed both the pros and cons, now let us see the steps that could be implemented to improve judicial delivery system. Firstly, the proceedings of the court could be shifted to virtual hearings. See, even today, in many forms like Central Administrative Tribunal and National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission of India, virtual hearing facilities are not used. So a shift to this could save time, money, etc. But note that many judges also prefer lawyers to be physically present to increase the veracity of the judgment. Therefore, a golden mean of both could be a panacea to solve this. That is, the mechanism should be put in place to allow parliamentary hearing to take place virtually, while final hearings are conducted physically. Secondly, India should take inspiration from France and implement a system comprising a separate court of appeal and courts of cassation. See, this proposal is also recommended by the Law Commission of India in its 95th and 229th reports. So in this analysis, we have seen about the positives and negatives of establishing the regional centers of Supreme Court. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Look at this article. It says that India has made significant progress in eliminating Kala Azar. The target of reporting less than 1 case per 10,000 population across all blocks in 2023 has been achieved. Data from the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program reveals a decrease in Kala Azar cases with 595 cases and 4 deaths reported in 2023 compared to 891 cases and 3 deaths in 2022. Sustaining this momentum for next 3 years is crucial for India to receive WHO certification for Kala Azar elimination. Despite missing previous deadlines, reaching this milestone is an important step towards eradicating Kala Azar in the country. So in this context, let us see about the disease. Kala Azar is a slow progressing disease and indigenous disease to India. This is the second deadliest parasite disease in the country after malaria. It is also a vector-borne disease and known as visceral leishmaniasis because it is one of the forms of leishmaniasis. Here know that leishmaniasis are a group of diseases that are caused by protozoan parasites from more than 20 leishmania species. These parasites are transmitted to human by the bites of the infected female phlebotomine sandfly. This phlebotomine sandfly is a tiny insect vector of only 2 to 3 mm long and they are about 1/4 size of a mosquito. Now, where does this disease occur? Most cases occur in Brazil, East Africa and in India. An estimated 50,000 to 90,000 new cases of Kala Azar occur worldwide annually. So Kala Azar remains one of the top parasite disease with outbreak potential and mortality potential. Here know that disease outbreak is the occurrence of disease in excess of normal expectancy. Now we shall look at the causes of this disease. With respect to India, a parasite known as Leishmania donovani is the only parasite causing this disease. Indian Kala Azar has a unique epidemiological feature which is being anthroponotic. Anthroponotic means it is transmissible from human to human and human is the only known reservoir of infection. Here remember that the disease is not contagious. Female sandflies pick up parasite while feeding on an infected human host. You can see the life cycle here. Now what is the extent of this disease in India? In India, Kala Azar is endemic in eastern states namely Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. Especially, Bengal is the oldest known Kala Azar endemic area of the world. An estimated 165.4 million population is at risk in 4 states. But now, more than 60% of cases are reported from Bihar. And mostly, poor socioeconomic groups of population who are primarily living in rural areas are affected by this disease. That's all about this article. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Look at this article. Recently, Tamil Nadu government announced the creation of Tamil Nadu Endangered Species Conservation Fund in its 2024 budget. This purple frog was also included in the list of species mentioned for conservation in this fund. So in this context, we shall learn about the importance of this purple frog. This frog is endemic to the Western Ghats. Its distribution limited mainly to Kerala and some parts of Tamil Nadu. The Anamalai Hills is one of its prime habitats in Tamil Nadu. It was only discovered in 2003. This frog is also called as Mahabali frog. This is because there is a similarity between the mythological king Mahabali and this frog. King Mahabali was banished to underground and he only visits people once in a year. Likewise, this frog lives underground and only appears to the surface one day in a year. Now, why is this frog significant? This frog has an evolutionary history that goes back 120 million years. This is one of the oldest lineages among all living frogs on Earth. So this frog is a living fossil. The DNA of this frog witnessed many great events that happened on Earth over millions of years, and this frog coexisted with dinosaurs. This is why it is important to protect this species from extinction. If we look at the conservation status, this frog is listed as an endangered species in the red list of IUCN. The purple frog was also brought under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Amendment Act 2022. So what are the threats? Rapid deforestation, conversion of forest land into cropland, and human settlements intruding deeper and deeper into animal habitats. So these are all threatening the survival of this species. Additionally, road networks lie close to their breeding grounds and hundreds of cases of road killings go unreported every year. So that's all about this article. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Look at this article. It talks about Guinea worm disease, which had over 3.5 million cases in 1980s, is now close to eradication with only 6 cases reported in 2023. The fight against Guinea worm disease is unique because it relies on basic public health principles rather than advanced medical interventions. Guinea worm disease cannot be prevented by vaccines. Despite these challenges, human resilience have brought the world closer to eradicating the Guinea worm disease. In this context, let us understand about Guinea worm disease. Guinea worm disease is also known as dracunculiasis. It is a parasite disease which is on the verge of eradication. It is one of the neglected tropical diseases. Here, the neglected tropical diseases, NTDCs, are a group of 20 diseases that are mainly found in tropical areas. They include parasitic, viral, and bacterial diseases that can cause significant illness for more than 1 billion people. What is the cause of this disease? Guinea worm disease is caused by drinking water contaminated by water fleas infected with Guinea worm. Approximately 1 year after infection, a painful blister forms and one or more worms emerge. This disease is rarely fatal, but infected people become non-functional for weeks or months. It affects people in rural, deprived and isolated communities who depend mainly on open, stagnant surface water sources such as ponds for drinking water. Moving on to see the prevention measures. There is no vaccine to prevent the disease, nor is there any medication to treat patients. This disease is preventable by water filtration, immediate case identification to prevent the spread of disease, health education and training, and ponds with larvicide. Also note that this disease is endemic to 4 countries, that is Chad, Ethiopia, Mali and South Sudan. So with this, let us move on to prelims practice question discussion. Look at this question. Which one of the following measures has been pivotal in the global efforts to eradicate Guinea worm disease? Option A, bed net distribution. B, mass vaccination campaigns. C, water filtration and sanitation initiatives. Antibiotic treatment programs. Here the correct answer is option C. Actually, there is no vaccine for this disease. As it is transmitted by water, the only preventive measure is water filtration and sanitation initiatives. Next question. Which one of the following statements with reference to Kala azar is not correct? It is a slow progressing vector-borne disease. This statement is correct. It is transmitted by mosquitoes and caused by protozoan parasites. This statement is incorrect because it is transmitted by sandflies, not by mosquitoes. It leads to substantial weight loss and swelling of the spleen and liver. This statement is correct. It is endemic in India, especially in Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. This statement is also correct. So the answer is option B. So next question. Purple frog, which is an endangered frog species, inhabits which of the following regions? Eastern Ghats, Western Himalayas, Thar deserts, Western Ghats. Here the answer is option D, Western Ghats. So this is a quiz question for you today. Which one of the following about MRKH syndrome is correct? Try to answer the correct option in the below comment section. Displayed here is the mains practice question for you today. Understand the question and try to answer it in the comment section. With this, we come to the end of this news article discussion. If you like the video, do like, share and subscribe to Shankar Academy. Thank you so much for watching.